Gather round, friends. I have a story that I'd like to tell you. What an adventure it has been. And finally, my companions and I, we're on our way home. We've stopped here to rest for the night in your small town. And if you have a moment, I'd love to tell you about our travels. Some of you might be guilty of thinking that adventures are only for the young and for children. But I'm here to tell you that that's not quite true. When we left our homeland to come to this part of the world, we had little idea how long it would take and what obstacles we would face in our way. Maybe I should start by telling you who we are. You see, we are the Magi. And as you can probably guess, we come from Persia. From what we've observed of your country, it's hard to compare what we are and what we do to anything here. For you have nothing in your country that comes close to comparing to what we do. You see, we are considered princes, court officials, spiritual leaders, and scholars of science and religion and both the heavens, but also of literature. In fact, we are counted as the intellectual elite of our people, and it's our job to counsel and advise those in our royal courts. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying here, for it is our job to grow in wisdom and knowledge, and then to pass that insight on to those who are leading our country. And that is the task that has been entrusted to me and my brothers. We're to raise ourselves above the common people when it comes to knowledge and wisdom. And that is the role that we play to our Persian brothers and sisters. You see, it's hard to explain what we do when your country doesn't have such a position. But I digress. As I've already mentioned, we have been on quite a journey. You may wonder what caused us to come all this way to your homeland. Well, you don't need to be concerned or worried, for it was only because of the good news that we came. But may I share with you that we were stunned that most of you knew nothing about this good news. You see, we began our journey over a year ago, and we did so because we are students. We'd been studying the movements of the heavens and their meaning when a significant star appeared, and it was a new star. It was so bright and so different that we understood it to be a sign of an event of great significance. But this alone was not what brought us here. If you remember in your history, the Jewish people once lived in our homeland in great abundance, I might add. Though you did not come here of your own free will, the Babylonians and our glorious nation have been more than gracious in allowing and even encouraging your return to your homeland. You are a peculiar people to us, as I suppose we are to you. But nothing has captured our curiosity more than your holy scriptures. We've been studying and investigating the portions that were left behind when you left. And our study of the words you left, especially from your prophet Daniel, it indicated to us that last year your Messiah came into the world. He had been born. So when we combined the study of your holy scripture and the sign of the star in the sky, we came to the most natural and logical of conclusions. We concluded that your God, the Most High, is active in the affairs of the world, and that he has not forgotten you, his chosen people. But it seemed to us to be even more than that. For we've been wondering if this Messiah of yours is really the Messiah of the world. Some of us have come to embrace that belief, and because of that, we are excited to come and to search for him and to welcome him. So we came to Jerusalem because we knew that the one whom we were searching for was there. People, your king has been born. What are you waiting for? But can I make the point that if you're going to see him, well, firstly, you have to be looking for him. If you don't expect him, or even more foolishly, if you aren't even searching for him, then you will never find him. Frankly, as we walked into Jerusalem, we were shocked at the general disinterest of our mission. We expected there to be a continued excitement at the announcement that this king had been born. In our homeland, it would be announced and celebrated, but as we came, we found no party happening. All we found was apathy and hostility towards our mission. When we met your current earthly king, we were also shocked at his lack of knowledge in this regard. He showed some interest, but it was an empty one at best. If he was so interested, he would have joined us so that he too could have worshiped and honored this new king. But it was clear to us that this King Herod had only this thing in mind, and that was keeping up with the status quo. Nevertheless, we were polite to him. He gathered the information that we needed from the religious leaders there in Jerusalem, and so we were directed to go to Bethlehem. As you might guess, we do not have in our possession all of the Hebrew scriptures. We lacked, in fact, those prophetic writings of Micah, which gave clear indication that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. So, going to Jerusalem made the most sense to us to go there first. For regardless of where a king would be born, one would expect the capital to be the logical place to find the young child, right? But your king's general disinterest, well, it continued to be a mystery to us. How could people not know? Nevertheless, we told Herod that we would return. And regardless, we were excited. We were finally going to see this king. Our goal to meet and honor this new king, who would be a wise and international leader, a man who would make a difference in this world, well, it was now finally at hand. No, this had not been an easy journey for us, not by any stretch of the imagination. It had been hard. In fact, even some of our own countrymen had questioned us making the long journey and coming. It had also been a costly journey, and it took a lot of resources to finance this trip. And so often we were tired and we were discouraged. We thought to ourselves, we're never going to get there. So many times, quitting seemed like a viable option for us. But perhaps the real killer had been the cool reception that we received when we arrived in Jerusalem. There's no doubt that our presence stirred up things a bit, but this apathy was almost enough to turn us around and send us all back home. Perhaps this adventure really was a mistake after all, we wondered. I truly believe, though, that God Most High knew of our discouragement. For that very evening, as we prepared to leave Jerusalem to go to Bethlehem, that star would reappear. One cannot adequately express the joy that entered into our hearts in that moment. We are doing the right thing, we thought. God is with us. We knew that. So off to Bethlehem we traveled. And that star continued to guide us, and it took us to the exact place we needed to be. And there we met the young child. He was about a year old, moving about the house as any active toddler would. And here were two parents that hardly looked like royalty. Compared to the palace of Herod, well, these two people were poor. Yet this child, this little baby, was God's chosen one. This was your Messiah that we had looked for, and the one that you have longed for so long. We did not come unprepared, by the way. We came with gifts that were fit for a king. We, of course, came with gold. Though this humble house seemed an unusual place for such a gift, it was a gift that befits a king. We also brought frankincense. We use it in our priestly duties as we understand that your religious leaders use it for the same. We know that this leader will be a spiritual one that will intercede to God on behalf of his people, for that is what your holy scriptures teach. This gift of incense was certainly an appropriate gift. But we also brought myrrh, and it's a much more somber gift. Myrrh's most common use was for burial, and it is our understanding that every person that lives must be prepared to die as well. We will never have any perspective if we do not understand our own frailty, that all of us, including this king, was born to die. Our time with this family, it was so special, and we were never going to be the same after encountering the Christ child. We started out looking for a nameless, faceless king, but we ended up with a personal audience to a toddler who drooled and cried and smiled and spoke gibberish and made messes, and he wouldn't stop moving about the house. And yet this was the anointed one. This was the Christ. This was the one that would be King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and he was due our worship. We hope that you get to meet him too. As I mentioned before, it caught us by surprise that no one has really celebrated his arrival. Perhaps you might take time in the near future to go and meet him for yourself. In fact, why don't you do it today? But I wonder when you meet Jesus, how are you going to respond to him? We brought gifts to this young child, but we came to realize that the God Most High was demanding more than these simple material gifts. We did learn that what was being asked of us was far more than what we had originally expected. In fact, that toddler was demanding more than our material gifts. He was asking us for our hearts. So that he received, for we will forever be devoted to him. You see, worship is a definite starting point for us, but it is really a lifetime act. We were changed by our meeting with him, and we hope that you will have the same opportunity and the blessing of that same kind of change in your journey.